Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I am here on my front porch with some wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous fall plants that I got on clearance for my fall plant haul. I am here in Zone 5B in mid-Michigan and I can't wait to share with you some of the glorious specimens that I got. All right, well, I got everything from perennials to annuals to shrubs with this garden haul. And so I think we're going to start with the biggest specimen first. So let me grab that and I'm going to show it to you. Okay, so this is the biggest specimen that I have. This is called a Vernal witch hazel. And I'm going to put it upright just so you can see it. It is quite large. It is what I would call a shrubby tree. It is a native and it is a fantastic source of fall color as well as winter interest. And so Vernal witch hazel are also called Hemimelis vernalis, and they are sometimes referred to as a shrub, but they get up to 10 to 12 feet tall and wide. This tag on this one says 6 to 10 feet tall and wide, so maybe this one stays a little bit smaller. It does get beautiful flowers on it in late winter and sometimes considered early spring, just depending on what zone you're in. And it can go in both sun to part shade. So sun, part shade. Those are all fine conditions for it. It does prefer moist, well-drained soil like most plants, but it will tolerate clay soils. And as you know, I've gotten a couple of these recently. I planted 2 Gelena witch hazels, and they were actually a hybrid of the native and the non-native plant. This one again will have yellow and red flowers that are very small, but they also even have a scent in the late winter to early spring. So they just give a really wonderful seasonal interest, and I think that the leaves are very beautiful as well. They remind me a little bit of viburnum. They remind me a little bit also of Father Gala. So they're absolutely gorgeous, and this should turn a very brilliant yellow in the fall. And I'm thinking about placing this in the way back. As you know, I am trying to develop my gardens back there, and being that it will take part sun, I think that is fantastic because I have an idea of where I want to plant it. Some of it is just a matter of whether I can dig a hole big enough for it, but I want to get it near the other witch hazels because I think that will help provide even more impact, because while the flowers are bright colors, they are fairly small. So like I said, these are hardy down to zone 4. They also go all the way up to zone 8. So this is probably not that great for some of you who are in the really, really hot, deep south. And they are very much a beautiful textural plant and give us multi-season interest. And I'm just really looking forward to getting this one in the ground. And I think it's going to be an excellent specimen for me to be able to show you how I do a little bit of tree forming on this, because there are some of the kind of suckering type growth that happen on plants that are often grown as shrubby trees. And so I'll show you how I tidy that up when we plant it out, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's take a look at our next plant. All right, next up we are going to stick with another shrub, and this one is also a very similar shrub. I already have one of these in my garden. I love it, I enjoy it a lot. I am going to add another one. So this is the Mount Airy Father Gala. And so you'll notice that on this shrub, the foliage is very similar to that witch hazel that I just showed. And they tend to have leaves that are a little bit furry. These are also fairly deer resistant, and so is the witch hazel. So that's one of the reasons why I got these. They also tolerate shade well. And this one has more of a brilliant red and orange and different colored foliage during the fall. So it makes a really great interest point. Now the leaves on this shrub may be slightly bluer, and they have a nice underlay for showy white blooms that it has in the springtime. And as I rub some of that new foliage, it's just kind of fuzzy like a lamb's ear, so it's very soft and lovely to the touch. And the blooms look like little bottle brushes, so that's kind of the common name for this plant. They're often referred to as the bottle brush plant. And this one is also a native, and it goes from sun to part sun. So I have grown this in part shade, and it does okay, especially if the soil is on the drier side, but the more sun that you give it, the more water that it prefers. And this one will grow 5 feet tall by 5 feet wide, so a nice medium-sized shrub. And it does like to have regular water, kind of moderate water. It will do okay, as I said, in shadier locations if it actually is a little bit dry. Now, zone 5 is its hardiness. This is a slow growing shrub, so you will not see this put on feet of growth every year. It will be more measured by inches and will grow slowly over time. So that's something that's really nice to kind of watch. If you want a larger shrub though, I just would say buy something that's in like a 5-gallon or something like that instead. I think what I have here is a 3-gallon. I forgot to tell you the price on the witch hazel that I got. That one was, I believe, $70, and so I got that one for $35 at Horrocks. It was marked half off. All of their shrubs and perennials and everything are half off. And then this Gala, Mount Airy, is half off of $49.99. So I got this one for $25, which I think is a really great price for a beautiful shrub like this that's going to give us so much interest, both in the springtime as well as during the fall. And again, just a really nice tactile bush if you like rubbing your fingers on different plants that you have, and it has that beautiful kind of blue-green foliage that you can't find in a lot of places. So this is a great one. The other kind that I have of Fothergilla is a blue shadow, and that one has even a more blue silvery color foliage, which is very unique and beautiful and has the same bottle brush flowers on it in spring. So those are a couple of wonderful choices. All right, let's take a look at some of the perennials that we got in this plant haul. Up next, we have something that just screams fall, I think. In my mind, heucheras and heucherellas are just the quintessential fall plant for containers or even planting in the garden if you don't have them. And this one is by Proven Winners. This one is the Fun and Games series, and it's called Hopscotch. I actually have a couple of these already, but I really like them, and they're not super vigorous plants. I could divide them if I want to, but they'll definitely take some time to grow on because I grow them in shade, and it's fairly dry shade. Now, these do grow in part shade to shade, and they have this beautiful burgundy foliage. It almost, sometimes they call this like, it looks like a tea, or gosh, I don't know. It's just got kind of a mottled, different colored, orangey red look. It's just nice. And so I would say this one is a very short one because this one only grows up to 12 inches tall. It does get fairly wide. It gets up to 20 inches wide. And I actually got one that's slightly bigger than this right here. So you'll see these are in slightly different size containers. The one that's smaller was $12.99 half off, and the one that is larger was $15.99 half off. So these are going to be really great additions to the garden, but they also look beautiful, like I said, in fall containers. And these are hardy down to zone 4 and all the way up through zone 9. And they do have blooms that come up. They're spike blooms. They just have blooms like heucheras or foam flowers, which are really dainty, and the pollinators just love them. And the foliage on these are slightly rounded. They are definitely toothed, but they have a round look. So you might see that some heucheras or heucherellas have spiky foliage, and this foliage has more of rounded lobes on it, which is really pretty. I think another good thing to know about this one is that it's not necessarily deer proof or even deer resistant, I would say. So they will eat these. I have seen rabbits eat them from time to time, but they do fairly well in my garden without being completely eaten up. I don't put them out in the front garden where we have regular deer, but if I did, they would be sprayed with my liquid fence just to ensure that they didn't get eaten. But they do have really beautiful blooms, like I said, that are great for the pollinators, and I just love looking at the bumblebees on the dainty little flowers during the summer. Really versatile plant. All right, the next beautiful plant that we have is this beautiful Airy grass that has blue stems on it, which is just gorgeous. You know, I'm not a super big, I don't know, grass fan, if you will. These are the type that I tend to, I don't know, lean into when I actually do buy grasses because I like the airy look of the blooms with the seed heads on them. I think they're gorgeous. This one is called Apache Rose, and it is part of the Prairie Winds series by Proven Winners, and I got these at Lowe's. These actually were not on sale. They were $12.98 each, but I just really like them, and I think they're gonna go really well with some of the annuals that I got on sale as well. And so they make for a great fall planting. Now, what I will say about these is if you live in a zone like mine where we have wet winters, these are best planted out either in spring or summer because they really don't have enough time to establish their roots. It's too cool for them to really grow vigorously this time of year, and so as a result of that, they struggle with getting their roots set in place and oftentimes will not really come back the next spring. So if you get them as a fall planting, just know they may or may not winter over for you. You might want to bring them into a garage or something like that. These do get to 48 inches tall, so not super overwhelming. They are hardy down to zone 4 and up to zone 9. And they are absolutely gorgeous, like I said, in terms of the blue color that they have. I love blue stemmed grass. When I see it, it just, I don't know, there's something about the deep blue, steel blue color that strikes my eye. And this one can get quite wide. So this one gets up to 30 inches wide. And it's considered blooming as in late summer, which is when these plumes go up and they put on their beautiful little seed heads. This one would be really good for something, a garden if you're looking for a drought tolerant plant. These do quite well in that they do need a really nice, well drained soil, and they take full sun for sure. All right, well, next up we have some annuals. You guys know I've been looking for some ornamental kale and I found some at Horrocks. So I was super excited to buy these, and these are just gallon plants. These are considered flowering cabbage or kale plants. This is just an ornamental kale, so not recommended at all for eating, but definitely beautiful in pots. So I think this looks really lovely, for instance, with the colors of this gorgeous grass, right? It has that nice undertone of the steel blue, and then the textures just mingle so nicely with the straight upright habit of the grass, and then the curly kind of fluffy leaves on this kale. Just gorgeous. That would make a beautiful planting combination, but I don't know if I'm going to plant them together or not. I haven't fully decided where I'm going to plant these. But then another plant that would look really good in this combination as well is the other flowering kale that I got right here, which is in a much smaller pot, but it's a nice light color. And I just love the way that these look. These actually last quite far into the winter. They can handle the frost, so it's a really nice buy this time of year, whereas many annuals that you might buy here in zone 5 or even 6, you're not going to get much life out of them anymore because we're coming towards the end of the season. We only have a couple weeks left before we're probably due for a frost. But these will handle the frost. They will do just fine, and they will look really gorgeous and even sometimes continue to provide color after a freeze. So they're a great investment this time of year if you want a little bit of color in your containers or somewhere in the garden. Now, obviously, kale and cabbage are not deer or rabbit or groundhog or any other critter type resistance, but they do look very beautiful. So consider that when you plant them and make sure you protect them. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this quick video on some of my gorgeous plants that I got as part of this plant haul. I really love it at the end of the season when we have opportunities to pick up great specimens at a great deal and be able to get them into the ground. Tell me if you guys have found any great deals lately. Have you found any shrubs, any perennials, or are you picking up some annuals at great deals? Well, thanks again. I appreciate you joining me every time, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. We'll see you next time. Bye!